Hi. Oh my gosh, this light is bright. My goodness. Thanks for listening, guys. Oh my gosh, Dave, I always make fun of you, but it's always the wrong way. Okay. So I know it didn't make. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, hello. I am Debbie. For those of you who don't know me, and I returned from Gambia a couple weeks ago. I went to Gambia the end of April, beginning of May, and Gambia is a small country in Africa. A lot of people haven't heard of it. I hadn't heard of it before I decided to go there. It's on the west coast of Africa, on the part that kind of juts out into the Atlantic. It's completely surrounded by Senegal, if anyone's familiar with Senegal. But it's this really teeny tiny country. There's a little part of it on the coast, and then the rest of it follows inland with the river. So I went on, this was a medical mission trip. For those of you who don't know, I am a physical therapist, and so I went with a team of people in a medical capacity, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But just to tell you a little bit more about Gambia first. Gambia is one of the poorer countries in Africa. It is a third world country. And so there's a lot of poverty there. So that's one of the things that you are dealing with when you are there. The other interesting thing about Gambia is that it is primarily a Muslim country. It is 97% Muslim and then 3%, about 3% Christian. So this is for those of you who know, I've been on a couple of other trips. And so this was very different because all the other countries I've been to have primarily been Christian-based countries. This is a Muslim-based country. And so that throws in a whole different dynamic to everything. Generally, Muslims and Christians, they get along very well with each other there. There's generally not a lot of tension between the two different groups. But that being said, if you are Muslim, you are Muslim. If you are Christian, you are Christian. And if someone who is Muslim decides they want to become Christian, what happens is basically they are disowned by their family. It is not looked upon kindly. If they decide to become Christian, they are basically given up their entire life, their entire family, their entire previous life. So it's just made for a little bit more of an interesting dynamic because when we go there, we are, of course, talking to people about God and about Jesus. One of the main differences, well, actually, I'll get into that a little bit later. But so these are just some pictures of the country. You can see a lot of the infrastructure is not like it is here. Obviously, a lot of the roads are unpaved. They have one paved road in the country, one paved highway. It was just paved about a year ago. The only reason why it was paved is because they were having a big Islamic conference in the country, and so Saudi Arabia came in and paved the road for them. Other than that, everything, the infrastructure is really not there. But so you can see a little bit of the infrastructure there. You can also see there's a bunch of guys playing soccer. Soccer is one of their big pastimes there. When you're on the beach, there's guys playing soccer. When you're, in the schoolyard, there's kids playing soccer. When you're driving up and down the street, there's people playing soccer. So that is just kind of one of their outlets that they do all the time. These are just more pictures of the of some of the infrastructure there. But as you're looking at those, I'll tell you a little bit more about the team that I went with. I went with a team of 43 people from the States. We went with doctors. We went with medical students. We went with pharmacists. We went with ultrasound technicians and, of course, physical therapists. And then with a lot of people who are just known as servants. They don't necessarily have a medical degree, but they're there to help. We had people who helped with like a vision eyeglass clinic, and we had people who were there to really help a lot with kids and kids ministry, because kids ministry was a really big piece of what we did there as well. So we went with this large team, people from all over the states, and so a couple of people had been there before and knew each other, but generally we all met each other and formed a team when we were there. There was a lot of prep work that went into this trip, and this is where a thank you to you guys comes into play. Beforehand, I know I was up here, I was asking you guys to donate supplies so that I could bring PT supplies over there, and you guys showed up. I went over with a lot of different supplies, braces, TheraBands, and everything, and so thank you so much for all your support with that. Also, for the first time, I was able to bring a wheelchair over. Unfortunately, one of my patients had recently passed away, and his wife, he had left this wheelchair, and his wife really wanted it to go somewhere good, and so she gave me the wheelchair to take over to Africa. Some of you may know that this wheelchair was a big source of anxiety for me before I left. I didn't know how I was going to get it over there, but I managed it. That picture there was, I dropped off all my baggage at the check-in counter at LaGuardia, and then I walked away to check myself in through security, and as I'm going through security, I see the wheelchair just sitting there outside of the check-in area, and I'm like, that's not where it's supposed to be. I already checked it in. Why isn't it on its way to the plane? And I just see this thing sitting there, and I'm like, I just hope it gets there. So I had to snap a picture of it because I hope it gets there. But it did actually get there, so that's my wheelchair. So one really nice thing about this trip that was unique was that we didn't stay where the clinic was. We stayed at a hotel a little ways away. But the hotel staff there were just really, really nice, really, really great. And we had the opportunity to, before we set up clinic in the town where we were doing clinic, we had the opportunity to set up clinic in the hotel. And so we had the opportunity to medically treat the staff that was serving us. And that was something that we'd never been able to do before. And so that was an opportunity that I really enjoyed. So this is me treating someone in the dining room of the hotel where we stayed. And so it allowed us to really help form more relationships with some of the staff at the hotel and have conversations with them. There was one of the workers who served us breakfast every morning. She had a pain in her neck, and she had a muscle not the size of a fist in her neck, and something like that doesn't go away in one day. And so I saw her on the first day, but then when we had clinic, but then every day for the rest of the week at breakfast, she would come find me, and I would be able to then continue to work on her neck. And by the end, it was a lot better. And so it was just a really unique opportunity that I really enjoyed, to be able to serve the people that were serving us when we were there, and really make a difference with them. So that was a unique, fun opportunity. This is a picture of our whole team, and a picture of some of the people at the church there that sponsored us. So when we're there, we are connected with a church, and they're our in-country contacts and help us set up the clinic. And so that's a picture of the whole team. Well, it's our team, and I think this one happens to be all the kids at the church. But so the church there really supports us, and does a lot of really good work there. They have big plans to do big things there, which is really exciting. The other picture is a picture of this empty field. And this is a field that the church there recently purchased, and they are planning on doing a lot of different things with it. One of the things they're trying to do is they want to open up a school, and to serve some of the kids there. And then it would be a Christian school. A lot of the schools there are Muslim-based schools. So this would be a Christian school that they would open up in the area. They also want to have a new church building there. Down the road, bigger picture, they actually want to open up a medical facility there. So the church there is really involved with a lot of the community there, and really trying to have a bigger footprint, a bigger impact in the lives of the people there. So that's the dream in Gambia there. But now on to our medical clinic a little bit. Our clinic was at one of the schools there, and the first day that we drove in, there was just kids everywhere. It was a madhouse. They're supposed to like corral them in so that we could like get off the bus and everything, but they didn't. So the kids were just everywhere. But they were great. They were a lot of fun. So anyway, so we set up clinic there. We set up, the doctors had their area, PT had their area, and the kids ministry had their area, and everyone had their place to work. So I'll give you just a couple of some medical stories. Hopefully I won't bore you too much with some of the medical stories, but I find them interesting. So first, this is the story of the continuation of the story of my wheelchair. So every morning, so first the picture of the four of us, the four girls there, that's me and my friend Jill, who's the other physical therapist, and then two other girls who were the ultrasound technicians. Every morning we would just come together as a group and we would just pray for the day, pray for each other, pray for the impact of the clinic. We would just pray for each other. And on that particular morning, my prayer was, look, I brought this wheelchair over, I wanted to have a home. This was the most anxious thing I've done, to get this chair over, it needs a home, there's a place for it here, help me find the home for this wheelchair. So, of course, I found a home for the wheelchair that day. The gentleman, that looks like he's wearing pink, he's sitting in the chair, he came in to the clinic, and his story was that basically he hasn't been able to walk for 8 years. He was a farmer, and according to them, their story goes that he was working so hard as a farmer that his legs just became weak and he couldn't work anymore. And he couldn't walk anymore and he couldn't stand anymore. As a physical therapist, as a medical professional, I know that just doesn't add up. You don't work so hard until you can't work anymore. That's not the way it works. And so I examined him a little bit. And he definitely, I'm not a doctor, but he definitely had some sort of neuro condition. He had some sort of infection, some sort of degenerative disease that just no one could catch, no one knew about. And so nothing could be done for him. So instead, he just couldn't walk for 8 years and stand for 8 years. And so his son, who's also in the picture standing there, he's been carrying him everywhere for the past 8 years. So I was able to give him the wheelchair. So I'm not going to cure his condition by any means, but I can at least make their lives a little bit easier. So he was the proud recipient of the wheelchair. That's the happy part of the story. The sad part of the story is that throughout the course of the week, I did have a couple of other people come in who also needed wheelchairs. And I didn't have any. I only had one. So the good news is he got one, but then the flip side is there's still more of a need, right? These are just a couple of other examples of people that I saw. The one on the table, she had a stroke, and so I was working with her and with the doctors and teaching family members how to care for her after having a stroke. The guy on the left, he obviously did not have a stroke. He's an athlete. He played soccer and had an athletic injury with soccer, and so we were able to treat him for that. And the point of these pictures is that we really were able to see a good variety of different things. A lot of people we treated came in with back pain, neck pain, because working really hard, heavy lives. But we got to really see a variety of other things as well. These two pictures, so the picture on I don't know what side it's on, your left, with the woman, this was a lady who had been in a car accident, who knows when, a while ago. And in that car accident, after the car accident, she never received medical care, ever. But in the car accident, she broke her arm, okay? She broke her arm right here. It was straight, clean-cut fracture. Very, very, very easy to treat here in the States. But over there, no medical care. And so it healed in the most funky way you've ever seen. If you want to see a video of how her arm currently moves, I'd be more than happy to show you because it is really funky. I just didn't think I should throw it up on the big screen in case someone didn't want to see it. Come see me later if you want to see how her arm moves. But the point being that she could have had, like, her injury was really simple, really easy to fix, but because they just didn't have the medical care, it wasn't able to be fixed. It just kind of, that this discrepancy in what they have there versus what we have here. Again, the picture of the little boy on the right, he came in and he walked funny, basically. The one leg didn't work right with walking, and he had no injury or anything. He was just kind of born into this, and he never received any kind of medical care. Again, I'm not a doctor, but when I examined him, again, he had some neuro kind of things going on. So my theory is that it's like a mild case of CP. Again, something that's so easily fixed here in the States, but couldn't be dealt with there. I worked with him for maybe like 15, 30 minutes. And in that 15 to 30 minutes, he was showing an improvement in how he walked. How much is he going to be able to carry that over? It's hard to know exactly, but hopefully a little bit. But again, just the point of what they have there versus what we have here, and just doing as much, here their lives would have been so much different if they had the medical care. There it's not. But so we're going over there, we're doing what we can to make things better. Okay, so this is a fun story. So my friend and I, we're both PTs. We go together. We are part of, again, this might be boring medical stuff, but part of the scope of PT way back when in the history of PT was that you could be involved in doing like wound care stuff. My friend and I, that's not what we do. That's not in our wheelhouse at all. We don't do that. But we had a third PT come on this trip. She hadn't practiced PT in like 20 years. So she's like, I'm just coming to help out. I'm not a PT. I'm not doing my PT thing. Like, I'm just here to help because I haven't practiced in 20 years. But when she did practice PT, she was a wound care PT. And so we had a couple of people come in with wounds. And this gentleman in particular, she saw every day with wounds. And if they had come in and it had just been my friend and I, we wouldn't have been able to do anything. We don't have the skills to do it. But because she was there, we were able to treat these wounds, and otherwise they wouldn't be able to be treated. It was a little bit of a problem-solving experience because they don't have the resources there that we have here. They don't have the ways to like sanitize things. It really needs to be done in a sanitary environment and things like that. And you need like hot boiling water. And we're like, how are we going to get this into the middle of a clinic? And so we ended up, in order to do things, we just had to be really creative. So you see a teapot there. So we stole a teapot from our hotel and we brought it to clinic with us. And then we were filling it, like they have like pipes from the ground with like, really dirty water that no one can touch or drink or whatever. And so then we're stealing like bottles of water that you use for drinking. We're filling the teapot. We're like boiling it so that we have like clean water to use. But so this is just to show that we were just so thankful that this third PT, Jenny, that she was there, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to do anything. But she was there on this trip when we really needed her. And just some of the unique problem solving that you need to do there because you don't have the resources that you usually have. So we were there on medical mission, but we were also there as a Christian organization. And so often after we see patients, we would pray with them. But it was, like I said, this is a Muslim country. And so it was a little bit different. Muslims believe that Jesus existed. They believe that Jesus is a prophet, but they don't believe that Jesus is God, and they don't believe or understand the concept of the Trinity. And for them, like we as Christians, like it's blasphemy to say that Jesus is God, because that's like multi-theism, and they don't understand the concept of the Trinity. So for you to say that Jesus is God is just very foreign to them and like offensive to them. So you have to be really careful with how what you say to them and how you pray for them. So a lot of the times, like when we pray, we will say, like, you'll close a prayer and you'll say, okay, like in Jesus' name, amen. That's not something you can say there because that would be very offensive to them. So you have to be, when you ask, can I pray for you? A lot of the times they would say no, but if they said yes, you could pray for them, but you'd have to be really careful about how you did it. And, some of the conversations that we would have with people would be very different than if I was in a Christian-based country. So a lot of times after treating someone, I would ask, do you have any questions about Jesus and who he is? And a lot of the times they would say no. They'd, be closed off, be like, no, I'm good. I know he was a prophet. I was like, okay, fine. But other times they would have questions, and then that could lead to some interesting conversations. So, we would always treat people first, and then at the end, we would ask them, do you have any questions about Jesus? Can I pray for you? And conversations would go from there. You see, kids were also huge. We said that we were at a school. Kids were everywhere, and it's me with a couple kids. Kids were everywhere. And so talking to kids and the kids ministry there was huge because kids are just in general more open to learning new things than adults are. That being said, whenever we talk to kids, you did also have to be really careful about it because if a kid decided that they were interested in Jesus, they were interested in Christianity, if they went home and told their families, it could put the kids in a really tough spot because then the families could disown them. And what's a 10-year-old going to do on the streets, So you had to be really careful with the way you talked with kids and interacted with the kids. So that was another unique challenge about this trip. And it was not only about the kids, it was also about... my clicker's not working anymore. Joe, can you flip? Oh, no, we'll do it here. Okay, interacting with some of the other people there. We did have security staff there. This is one of the security guards that I was able to have a couple conversations with and form a relationship with. So we would chat a lot on downtimes and just talk about her life, my life, the differences. So that's me chatting with her. And then that is her son. One of the days we were there was like a national holiday, and so all the kids had off from school. And so she brought her son to work with her. And so I got to hang out with him a little bit and really just chat with her. And so it was really all about interacting with like the security guards, just interacting with everyone there and chatting with them, forming relationships with them, and just really getting to know them and having them get to know you. So I think I'll skip that story. You can ask me later if you want. Sorry, Joe. Thank you. So you can go to the next slide, and I'm wrapping up. So, that's kind of just a couple of the stories from the trip. We had a big... we had a big impact on the people there, but there is still so much more to do. You can do so much. But we had a really big impact there, and it was a unique, good trip. And I also want to thank all of you as well. I know you guys, you were really generous with bringing in donations and supplies for me to take, but you were also really generous with your prayers and just your questions and the support as I was planning for the trip. So all of your support through all of it was really helpful and really great. So thank you to all of you as well. So that's the trip. If you have any other questions or want to know more, I'm more than happy to answer questions later or whatever, but there you have it. So thanks. And then I think next, Sam, I kind of ran long, so I don't know. I just talked, so I don't know.
No, you're good.
Okay.
That was it.
Okay.
Huge thank you. So this is what Awaken is all about. And so me and Sam were talking, and we're going to pivot from his sermon a little bit in order to kind of wrap up what Debbie was talking about. And we can just sit on this ledge here, right? Yeah. And So Sammy texts me. He's like, "Hey, what do you think?" And I'm like, "Let me go talk with Sammy." So we're gonna get this now. As I said, for Awaken, this is one of the reasons why I began the church. One of the reasons why Awaken continues is because what we do on a Sunday morning is really important. It's helpful. We need it for our own walk with Jesus and growing and learning. We need the community, but we also don't want it just to end here. And when we leave, we don't want for what happens here to end until we come back the following Sunday. So that's why for Debbie, she gets to go on these trips. I mean, how many have you been on now? 4 trips. And love getting to hear what she does, meeting some real needs. And for her, as we've heard, the foundation of why she does this, why she goes, is because she wants to spread the love of Jesus to people, both tangibly, but then also however she can talk about her relationship with Jesus and help others see how that relationship has impacted her. So what I thought I would do with Sammy here for a few minutes, and he's looking at me like, Dave, where are you going with this?
Don't put me on the spot.
I am going to put him on the spot.
I'm not ready.
So Sammy will speak again in July. So he'll take seen, known, belong. We'll take that one in July. But I want to ask you, because you've been a part of Awaken now from the very, very beginning. 2010 started in my apartment, and then we've moved around to a bunch of different locations. For you, here you are. You've had other opportunities in ministry. You've had other jobs in ministry. Why is it that you are like, Awaken is the place that me and Mary need to be in our lives right now? Is that putting you on the spot?
No, it actually kind of goes with the talk that I was going to have today. So I think I'll actually like try my best to fit it into like just a 2-minute situation. But I think for me and Mary and I, I've grown up in church my entire life. I feel like I know the cultural language, but after a period and experiences, I felt like I disconnected, like I didn't really belong in the church. I think that was really my experience. I just didn't belong. They didn't speak the language that I spoke or that like resonated with my soul. And I think that was the hardest thing. Mary and I started to feel alienated by it. And not by people intentionally, just I felt alienated, just the disconnect. And Mary and I, like going through the different experiences we've had, I feel like there's something uniquely human about Awaken. There's something that like resonates with a person on just a deep natural level, and this community creates a sense of belonging, and that was really what the talk is about. The story of Zacchaeus and him not feeling like he just didn't belong based on his actions and his life, but there was a belonging that was missing, and in Awaken, there's this belonging that feels that, and I feel like I can speak into this moment, but there's this idea that it doesn't matter where you are or what you've been through or your experiences. When you walk through those doors, when you walk into the space, you belong right off the bat. And then within that, there's this love that's shown. There's this grace and this actual like empathy and caring that I believe is so unique to this space, because it isn't a production. It's just we are people who love Jesus, who love humanity, who love people, and that's it. And then everything else comes afterwards. It is not about anything other than people and Jesus and God. And so for me, that human level, the bare minimum in the sense of like what it's all about, that is what drew us. And that's what continues to draw us to Awaken. And the people are amazing. There's so many beautiful faces that I get to see every week, and I love them, and they're incredible. Yes, beautiful. Because you just look at me. That's what draws me to Awaken. That's why I've always come back.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I think what Sammy said, and we're gonna wrap this up here. We're gonna have one more final song. There are so many stories that over the past, 15 years, I guess, of Awaken, stories of people's lives having been transformed, hearing stories like what Sammy is saying, and that's a sentiment. What you have shared is a sentiment that I've heard from many of you, where there really is this sense of we're in this together, we're going to support each other through whatever we're going through, and we also want to support each other so that you can flourish in your life and that you can use your gifts, what you have been gifted with, to now go and be a blessing to the world. And, getting back to Debbie, what I love about, and, probably embarrass her for a moment, but it's okay. She takes vacation time in order to go, be on these trips because she believes so much in what she's doing and that she's been gifted with something and that she can now go out and serve others with that which she has been gifted with. So she's sacrificing her time, but not going to speak for her, but I would argue that she doesn't necessarily see it as a sacrifice because you heard the stories and I saw her face light up when she saw like, hey, here's the wheelchair went. Like, about this wheelchair, source of anxiety. Here's where it went. And I only wish that I would have had a second or a third or a fifth wheelchair that I could have handed out. There's more need. And so if we remember anything from today, I would say, one, there's needs all around. So live with our eyes open. You don't have to travel to Gambia to go and serve those who are in need. Maybe you want to, maybe you will. But there's needs all around. So if we just live with our eyes open to the needs around us, that's how we go and serve our neighbors. That's how we live out the message of Jesus. And I think it all starts, and I can't wait for July the 13th when you bring this message, because it all starts with having a place of belonging. Because if you don't have that place of belonging, it's like you don't have a safe place where you can come, as Sammy said, just as you are. And I think that's what the intent of the church is. You come just as you are. It's a safe place. You can bring all of yourself, the good, the bad, the ugly parts, because God is in all of it, and God redeems and sees and heals all of it. And we need that foundation, that place of belonging that we can then go forth from in order to go and be the hands and feet of Jesus and serve the needs of the world. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Elle for our final song, and then we'll have a benediction, and we will go out living with our eyes open to the needs of those around us.